Hi, thanks for your ideas, by the way, guys. Join us on Discord. And now to my life. Here I am, holding the fort at the illustrious Penny Saver convenience store. The murky lighting of the store does a pitiful imitation of daylight, while the enticing aroma of week-old hot dogs on the rotisserie is a delight to the senses.
All hail Peter, reigning over the cash register.
Good evening, Miss Evelyn. The usual? I greet my first customer, a fragile woman with an endearing inclination towards cat food and romance novels. You're sure to love our Whiskas star-worthy cat food. She shoots back. Oh, hush you! But the twinkle in her eyes hints that she enjoys our repartee. As the tedium of the day unfolds, my mind often finds itself strolling down memory lane. I recall a time when I was the little prince in a castle with crystal chandeliers and marble floors. A stark contrast to the worn-out linoleum of my current dominion, the penny saver. My mother, a warm soul tucked away in designer couture, was my haven amidst the icy indifference of my father. Her tender gestures, baking cookies, creating enchanting shadow puppet stories. They were her rebellion against the cold opulence that our home represented. "And you are my little prince," she'd coo. "And you are my queen," I'd reply. But alas, my queen was trapped in a loveless marriage with a man who fancied himself a king. I was privy to my father's obsession with money and power from a young age. His golden words of wisdom such as, "You don't play Monopoly to make friends, you play to buy the board," was instilled in me from childhood. Fast forward to my 28th birthday, and I'm blowing out a lone candle stuck in a store-bought cupcake, in an apartment dimly lit by an assortment of thrift store finds. Happy birthday to me, I murmur to my only guest, an oversized, one-eyed teddy bear named Mr. Snuggles. I remember the day I turned 18 vividly. It was the day my fairy tale life came crashing down. My mother had just passed away, and my father had news to share. "Son, I have something to tell you," he said, raising a toast in celebration. The revelation that followed was the grandest birthday gift of all, an empty trust fund and a heartless farewell. I found myself thrust from a life of glitz and glamour into the mundane world of minimum wage jobs and college deadlines. I wore my sarcastic smile like armor, serving Slurpees and hot dogs, watching the world go by with a laugh that held more pain than humor. One evening, the nightly news showcased my dear old dad, cavorting with the new trophy wife, Lydia, the billion-dollar heiress. I was amused, finally understanding that he has a nose for gold, other people's gold. Fast forward a bit more, and there I am, playing the hero to Richard, a man who had given up on life and was playing chicken with a train. Losing an arm while saving him made me realize that selflessness could be pretty costly. Seeing my mangled arm, I turned to Richard and said, "Now I can audition for a reboot of The Terminator, huh?" Richard didn't laugh. I guess not everyone appreciates dark humor, it seems. "Thank you for saving my life. I want to offer you some help." "Help? What kind of help?" "Financial help. Medical help. Whatever you need. You saved my life." "I appreciate your gratitude, Richard, but I don't need charity." "Peter, it's not charity. It's my way of returning your kindness." "Well then, consider it a birthday gift." "A birthday gift? It's your birthday?" "Yeah, happy birthday to me." "Well, in that case, let's celebrate." "Celebrate? How?" "By coming with me. My home. My family. A good time. What do you say?" "What do I have to lose? Maybe this is the turning point I needed. I say, yes, let's go." So this is Richard Johnson, the homeless guy I saved. Turns out he's not homeless at all. He's a billionaire philanthropist who likes to go undercover and help people in need. He's also the father of Amelia Johnson, the most beautiful and kind woman I've ever met. And he's invited me to stay at his mansion, where he's treating me like a son. Sounds like a dream come true, right? Well, not exactly. Richard is showing me the acts he did over the years, on his expensive leather couch while I am still getting used to the prosthetic arm he gifted me. "Look at that, Peter. That's me. That's what I do." "Yeah, I see that, Richard. You're amazing. You're a hero." No, no, no. I'm no hero. You're the hero, Peter. You saved my life." "Ah, come on, Richard. It was nothing. Anyone would have done the same." "No, Peter. Not anyone. Only you. You're special. You have a good heart." "Well, thanks, Richard." "He's right, Peter. You are special. You're brave and generous and funny." "Funny? Me? Nah." "Yes, you are. You make me laugh all the time." "Well, that's good to know. Laughter is the best medicine, they say." And that's Amelia Johnson, the billionaire's daughter, the woman of my dreams. She's smart and sweet and gorgeous. She likes me for who I am, not for what I have. She makes me feel things I've never felt before. She makes me happy, but she also makes me nervous, because I don't know if I can trust her or myself. Well, thank you, Amelia. You're very kind.
No, thank you, Peter, for being here, for being you. You see what I mean? She's perfect. Too perfect.
What does she want from me? What does she see in me? What if she finds out about my past? What if she breaks my heart? Life at the Johnson Mansion was a whirlwind of new experiences, extravagant dinners, and heartwarming conversations. Richard was a man of humble grace, and Amelia, well, she was nothing short of a dream. Until, of course, the universe decided to play its favorite game. Pulled the rug from under Peter's feet. Richard called me into his study one day, his usual jovial demeanor replaced by an air of solemnity. There was something in his eyes, a mix of guilt and anticipation. "Richard, is everything okay?" I asked, trying to ignore the sinking feeling in my stomach. "I need to tell you something, Peter. I should have told you earlier, but I wasn't sure how." I felt a cold sweat trickle down my spine. Richard's voice had the unmistakable tone of ominous news. "I'm listening, Richard," I murmured, trying to steel myself for the unknown. "You see, Peter, your father, he's involved with my sister, Lydia Johnson."
What?
It felt like I'd been sucker punched. Lydia, the billion-dollar heiress, my father's new arm candy, was Richard's sister. Okay, universe, now I understand. You have a very cruel sense of humor.
Wait, what?
Yes, I didn't know it at first, but then I recognized the man she was parading around with. It was your father. I felt a wave of nausea. My world spun a little. This wasn't the happily ever after I was hoping for. "I'm sorry, Peter. I've been investigating your past to see what kind of man I was bringing into my home, into Amelia's life, and I found out about your father's schemes." His words left me reeling. The prospect of confronting my father again, it wasn't something I was ready for. But the real bombshell was yet to be dropped. "Richard, why?" I managed to stutter, my mind a tangled mess. "I thought it was all coincidence, until I received a call from an unknown number. It was your father. He knows you're here, Peter. He wants to see you. Now, we need to figure out how to handle this." As we strategized, I couldn't help but feel a sense of dread. It was like a bad movie plot, the prodigal son drawn into a family feud because of the sins of his father. When the day of the confrontation arrived, I was a bundle of nerves. My father, the man I had tried so hard to forget, was coming. The mansion, which had felt like a sanctuary, now felt like more of a battleground. As my father's limo pulled up the driveway, I took a deep breath. It was time to face the ghosts of my past, to fight for my present, and maybe, just maybe, secure a future where I could finally find happiness. I turned to Richard. "Let's do this." As my father emerged from the sleek limousine, his flamboyant outfit screamed affluence. I felt a rush of old, buried feelings, the harsh glint in his eyes, the familiar curve of his condescending smile. They were the ghosts of my past that I had long since abandoned. "Father," I acknowledged, my voice nonchalant, my mind unreadable. Beneath my seemingly indifferent exterior, however, a sea of anger was churning, waiting to crash upon the shore. "Pete, my boy!" He greeted me with a seemingly warm grin, but his icy eyes betrayed his true intentions. It was clear that he viewed this newfound relationship not as a chance for reconciliation, but as a means to leech off my newfound affluence. Richard, however, stepped in before I could retort. "A reunion of sorts, Robert, but not in the way you expect." Confusion flickered across my father's face as he turned to Richard. "Richard Johnson, I should have guessed you were a part of this," he grumbled. "Part of this? No, Robert," Richard retorted calmly, his voice steady and sure. "I'm confronting you about the mess you've left behind." The exchange left the atmosphere laden with tension, but I remained steady. This confrontation was about more than dredging up the past. It was about carving out my future and defining who I was. Richard continued, his voice stern. "You need to understand a few things, Robert." "And what might those be?" My father scoffed, his smug demeanor returning. "The first one being, you're not going to exploit us any longer. We're well aware of your schemes and your deceit. Peter is a part of this family now, and we look after our own." The silence that followed was deafening. My father's eyes, wide with shock, met mine, but this time I didn't waver. I showed him none of the vulnerability he had so expertly exploited all those years ago. "I don't need your excuses, Father. What I need for you is to stay out of my life. Permanently. My words, though harsh, were necessary. It was high time he understood that I was no longer the abandoned son desperate for his approval. His shock was palpable, but I didn't waver. Richard, ever supportive, clapped a reassuring hand on my shoulder. A silent message of solidarity. "We're done here, Robert. I advise you to leave before we involve the law," Richard warned, his voice leaving no room for doubt. As my father skulked away, retreating into the confines of his limo, a sense of relief washed over me. I was no longer a fatherless boy, scrabbling to survive. I was Pete, a man with a newfound family, and a bright, promising future. I was free from my father's shadow, ready to step into my own light. But first, there was someone I needed to talk to. Amelia. The storm had passed, but now I had to navigate the aftermath. Walking into Amelia's room, I could feel my heart pounding. As I told her everything, about my father, Richard, the confrontation, I could see her struggle with the revelations. But when I finished, instead of anger or disgust, I saw understanding. Understanding and something else. Something that looked a lot like love.
Peter, none of these changes how I feel about you. We can navigate through this together.
Her words, so simple yet profound, brought tears to my eyes. For the first time, I allowed myself to believe in a future that held promise. A future with Amelia.